Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Today is Friday, September 29th, 2023. We're only a couple weeks out from the SCTE Expo. This is our fifth episode of Neat Network in cool capacity. And a pretty nice day outside for the most part. Not quite fall yet. The leaves are starting to change. I think it's pre-snow. We all know up north here that winter is coming at some point. Aside from all of that, Rick, how's it going, man?
Things are good. I'll agree with you. Beautiful weather. Rain this week a little bit, but we needed some rain. I think for me, and I think a lot of us really just gearing up for Expo, those that are going. I've talked to a couple of the folks at National back and forth this week. I know they're feeling that crunch of Expo coming up. So I'm gonna ask some questions to you, Eric, real quick about Expo. I know you're going, right? Chapter sending some folks, is that correct?
That's correct. We're rolling about 8 or 9 deep from Great Lakes this year. And the thought at the beginning of the year, right, since it's such a premier event, and you think about years past, it was only open to, higher profile SVPs and VPs, if you will. And over the last few years, especially after COVID, I think that's changed a lot. And so we wanted to afford the opportunity to our entire chapter to go. So some folks, are going on the chapter dime. Others, maybe going on their company dime. But I believe it's about 8 or 9 folks we're bringing this year.
Yeah, awesome. And I know, from the vendors, we're all seeing some different vendor invites and things come in. A lot of the vendors get together, have some receptions. I'm sure you guys are going to partake in a couple of those as you can. But what's outside of the road trip that I've heard about? What are you most excited to see at Expo?
I'm excited to see the floor. Since last year was my first year there, it's very similar, almost like the Detroit Auto Show, if you will, except for cable. You get to meet so many vendors. You're picking up business cards. I think back to last year when CommScope did a demo for us in regards to FDX, what Comcast is doing for FDX, and then also what Charter and other MSOs are doing as well. But I also think the face-to-face aspect with people is so important. It's just like SCTE, CLC. It reminds me of how small the cable industry is. You run into people, you see people you may not have seen for years, or you run into people who know people that you know, and you share interest, common bonds there. In the talking shop after work hours is also good as well in regard to not just work, but shop, SCTE as well, and kind of help some chapters along, that struggle, especially in situations where their leadership does not back them in instances whatsoever, when it comes to Expo or even when it comes to chapter trainings. So I think that's it for me. How about you, Rick?
So I think you touched on a couple, right? The floor, the technology, right? Always my favorite part. Love to see what's new, what's coming, what's the new product, what's the new test equipment, anything that we could use, my team. Love that part of it. Love catching up with the vendors. Love meeting new ones. And then that chat, that conversation that goes along with it. Cable games, right? So cable tech games.
Oh, who are you sending? You're sending one this year, right?
Ian Burnett's going to represent Central Indiana, Region 7 type. So he's going to compete this year. So it'd be cool to see that. I could be misquoting. Somebody might smack my hand, but I'm thinking they're going to do that while the floor is open. They're going to do some of the competition while the floor is open. So that'll be good. Another one that I unfortunately am going to miss due to how I scheduled my flight is the chapter leadership breakfast.
I'm telling
Tuesday
Sam.
Morning.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so tell on me. I'll be there shortly after that. But yeah, the breakfast is always a good time. You get to run into some chapter leaders, some of the folks you saw at CLC, things like that. So that's always good. And then absolutely. Just hanging out, having some good after event conversations. Maybe indulge in a cocktail or two. That's my limit, but yeah, looking forward to the whole thing. Expo's quite the event, and just the energy that it brings, and then the people you get to see, new people you get to meet. So it's going to be great.
Don't forget to download the new SCTE Expo app that's out as well. I believe it came out about a week ago. You can check out your plans. You can star things you want to go to. I believe you can see who's speaking when, where, and then also I think there's a floor plan in there as well. So for folks who enjoy their app, yep.
Yeah, no, awesome. And good ad there, right? I mean, good tool, right? That you can have while you're there. If you need to find a vendor that you're looking for specifically, it'll help you navigate through that. And then, it's more than just the floor, the cable tech games. There's trainings that go on and things like that. So, looking forward to it. Denver's cool. Good place to be. It's going to be a good time.
Totally agree. So, Rick, what kind of trainings does Central Indiana have coming up soon? What can we plug here for?
So, we had to pull it from the schedule. Unfortunately, beginning of the year, slight oversight on our part. We were going to do a test equipment roundtable the same week as Expo. Not to say that we couldn't have pulled that together, but part of us, we got together and said, hey, is it right? A lot of the vendors are going to be at Expo. Should we try to force it? We decided we're sitting pretty good on training hours that we would switch our focus to our November training. So towards the end of November, we're going to sit down and do a leadership training. A lot of companies out there in the industry, outside the industry, talk a lot about career growth, career progression, things like that. And, there is a lot of great leaders out there that maybe aren't in leadership roles. And a lot of interest behind, how do I become a leader? So we're looking to fill in, a few hours, maybe do what I would call a kind of a fireside chat, maybe a panel.
I love it.
So still early stages, mostly brainstorming right now, but that's going to be our next one. And as soon as we finalize some of the details, we'll get that shared out. With Region 7, we try to share across the board, and hopefully we can bring some great leaders in to share their experiences, and some folks can learn from them. So that's it for us. What about you guys? I keep getting emails. There's got to be several things going on up in Michigan.
Yeah, so we're doing chapter optical transceivers next month with Yarrick from Precision. That'll be October 10th. And then in November, we don't have a date set yet, but we're going to do a how-to with smart sheets in the matrix, if you will, even though we know, right, that there may be a pending change coming due to with the matrix. We just don't know all of the details yet. So kind of getting the ball rolling on November with that, and we may turn the smart sheets into like a dashboard or a data visualization, if you will. So to your point about trainings for chapter leaders, that's right up their alley in November. And then in December, it's tentative at this point, but we would like to put on a training for remote OLT, just at a high level, and then also potentially incorporate some EPON stuff to finish out the year. It's a very tentative event. So at this point, we're finishing out the year virtually, and we hope it's strong. I know we're meeting compliance on the training hours, as I'm sure Central Indiana is as well. Didn't you guys hit your training hours like in February?
No, probably early March. No, and hats off to Matt McComas. He runs that for us. He's been all over it. We have capitalized on different ways to collect training hours, co-oping different trainings, piggybacking off some other trainings, watch parties, things like that. So we were able to get out there ahead quick. It felt good. It felt like we could take a breath. But then we don't want to lose sight on finishing strong with some good, strong trainings in the end. So, but yeah, we're doing good. And the reality is, looking through like major points and things, We may have got the training hours, but when you look at Region 7, we're definitely not winning there. So
that's going to go to Jeff in Lake Michigan, isn't it, this year? They had nowhere else to go but up.
Yeah, and fantastic job on that chapter there. They did some restructuring. Brought Jeff in as the president, voted Jeff in as the president. He's doing some really good things up there. He's working close with the MSOs, making sure they're getting the right training to the front line. Awesome to see them succeeding right now. Yeah, very, very happy for Jeff and his team. Also a friend of the show, right, Jeff?
That's right, yeah. Nico's got to be pretty happy with Region 7 overall, huh?
Yeah, and we got to keep plugging away, right? We're going to make Nico look good. He'll step up and let us know what we need to do or what he'd like to see from us. And glad that he's in that position. He had some big shoes to fill. But he's doing a good job for us, and he'll keep us on task and help us where we need it, right?
Yeah. I think the final topic I've got before we turn it over to our special guest today are chapter elections. We're going into that season. And our ballot goes out Monday. I believe we've got 12 or 13 candidates on our ballot for 2024. So there's going to be a lot of competition, and if I end up as an assistant board member, so be it. I mean, at this point, you and I will just do the podcast and that's it, right? We'll let everyone else do all the hard work.
Yeah, 12, that's awesome. If you've got 12 people raising their hands, that's the spot you want to be in, right? You want those people that want to be there. And, yes, we can still do the podcast. We haven't talked much about elections on our board, but we are getting ready to set those up and get those going. I don't know where I'll fall, but hey, I'll take what it lands. Either way, I'll still be a part of the SET, and we'll definitely try to keep this going as well.
Cool. All right. Well, I think now's the time to bring on our guest.
Do it.
I would like to welcome Don Simmons from the West Division Comcast. He is also a board member on the Golden Gate chapter. Welcome to the show, Don. How are you?
Hi, guys. I'm doing really well and happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so kind of go into detail. We'll kind of talk high level from a Comcast career perspective. Where did you start, Don? Kind of take us along your timeline.
Yeah. Again, thanks for. I think I'm your first number one fan. I'm going to say because I've listened to all the episodes so far. Just to plug the show, I enjoy just so how you know how I listen to it. I do a lot of work from home or work in isolation in this post-COVID world, and putting on the podcast while working makes me feel like I'm in a shop and just people are talking or in the office or something like that. So you're providing a resource, not just beyond the knowledge, but just kind of good, I don't want to call it noise, I guess, but good information to be just kind of plugging on and listening to. So it's a great listen while you work podcast. So I appreciate that. But I started off as a technician installer in 1999 in San Francisco. And that was wild with TCI cable. San Francisco is built very vertical. So you don't do a lot of crawling, but you do tons of climbing of fire escapes, and that's a unique adventure, if you will. I originally, I always ask how do people fall into cable. I consider cable quicksand, right? You get in, but you can't get out. I was supposed to be a teacher. I went to school to be a history teacher, and I wasn't quite ready to just go right into the classroom right away. After I graduate, I still want to kind of hang out a bit. And there was the office, TCI, down the street from my house. And I just, asked the person at the front desk, how can I apply? And I did, and I got the job. And digital cable was new and hot. And so they needed installers to install digital cable with if you recall, telco return. Oh boy, non-responders, if anybody had to deal with that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was our return, right, back in the day. yeah, so I did that, and my college study skills came in handy because I ended up globbing onto NCTI courses right away in my free time, and just moved up to service technician. From that, the Palo Alto area, just a little south of San Francisco, Silicon Valley area, they were turning their plant from tree branch into HFC. We had just bought it from the city, and so I went and became a network maintenance technician down there through that rebuild, and those were some fun times. I still remember fondly of those times. Rebuilds, full-blown rebuilds are fun. Lots of overtime, let me tell you. And from that, I was tapped to, they said, hey, Don, I had all these book smarts and felt like I could put it together in the field too. I was doing all right. Was asked to become a technical trainer. So I was a technical trainer for a few years. I wanted to be a technical trainer for the network maintenance and head-end levels. But unfortunately, the need was for new hire training, which is fine. And I did it. I like to bury my head more in the technical stuff. But yeah, I did that for a couple of years. And then from there, I guess now we're talking about 2007 or so, I wanted to finish out my original goal when I first became that installer and I was reading those NCTI books of becoming a head-end tech. So I got to be head-end tech. I had done capacity and node splits as a network tech, and then I got to do that as a head-end tech. Wire CMTSs. I remember our first one. I was back in San Francisco, and our first CMTS in our hub. What was going on out there was, this is our CMTS. This is the one you need to deal with all the internet in this area. And that was short-lived because, we ended up with 7 or 8 or 9 more. This is a fifth of the city, right? So times that by 5 in San Francisco, right? It just grew and grew and grew. And the MSO I was with, and we tried our hand at voice, not VoIP. I'm trying to remember switch voice, right? And that was short-lived. That had a lot of real estate in the head end with those HDTs, they called them. And it was enjoyable through those years, 2000, early 2000s into 2010s, to watch these HTTs come out and these CMTSs go in right in that same footprint. So it was interesting to see that transition. And then after that, I became an area engineer, mostly working on NCP's work, ticketing and that sort of thing, and watching the ports and seeing if there's any decombines, if we still had decombines left. Back then, you still had decombines left, right? To decombine any high-capacity ports. And then after that, I did a stint in PMO around 2012. And that really got me outside of the technical side of the business as a project manager over, all the different departments. I really got exposed to many different departments, marketing, business operations, finance, you name it. And that was excellent exposure to every nook and cranny of the cable business.
You're really well-rounded, and we haven't even gotten to the last decade. All right. Yeah. Yep.
Am I going on too long?
No.
No, you're good.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
I do. I don't know. I've enjoyed my career so far. So yeah, after PMO, I became a capacity manager for a capacity engineering group in the California region. And they were half engineers, half project managers. Because at this point, 2016, 2017, your decombines are over, and now you're talking about construction, right? Not just dropping optics in. You're gonna have to add a new node and that sort of thing. So during that era, maybe construction teams were very focused on growth, not necessarily existing plant. So by default, I led a team of engineers to be project managers as well, to kind of guide construction teams out there to help augment the system. And that's about the point. So let me back up with SCTE. So in 1999, when I had my first new hire trainer, Ron Gay, still remember his name and his face, like maybe day 3, he showed us his SCTE membership card. And he said, you go and sign up and go be a member of SCTE. You want to excel in your technical career, you go do that. And I did, I did that. And, took a stab at some certifications along the way. But all that time, fast forward to 2018, I was like, SCTE has been the constant throughout my cable career, and I haven't done anything with it. I haven't given back in any way. And so at that point, I realized, maybe I can help support the board in some way. And during that time, that's when I became an associate board member, later became a full-fledged board member. Well, as an associate board member, backing up a little bit, you're trying to find your niche as an associate board member. You're sitting in on these meetings. Somebody said, you'd be good. You want to be part of this. So I was sitting in on a few meetings, and my advice for anybody that wants to get in is do that. Sit in on a few meetings, and then learn what the board needs, because every board needs something. At that time, we were seeing awards from other chapters, kind of. I think during that era, Alaska kept getting awards and that sort of thing, and so we were fishing to see what was their cause for success. And it came out. We had some, we chatted with other chapters. And I think we came to the conclusion what we didn't have was somebody kind of following the matrix, making sure the paperwork is getting in. What I was noticing as an associate board member during those meetings, I'd hear a lot of should. Oh, we should have gotten points for that. They didn't give us points, and they should have gotten points for that. And so they're like, well, we need somebody to kind of follow this along and track this. And so my hand went up for that. I can track that. I can put a spreadsheet together. I can read all the matrix stuff and kind of following along. And some of that, we should have gotten points for that, tracking along, typically turned into like, no, we didn't really turn the paperwork in on time, if at all, right? And so that kind of molded into like, managing folks a little bit better, kind of changing the behaviors of like, well, if we want to, we're doing the work, but if we want to get the points for it, we have to do that extra legwork to kind of put that stuff in. So that became kind of my niche, and fulfill that need for the chapter. And so that's what I kind of got known for the last maybe 5 years or so. I serve as an assistant secretary, doing that work. But then back to my career. So that's about that time is when I got more involved in the board. And then my company, we reorged and became a access engineering manager. And I think that's about the time I met you, Eric. So kind of instead of running whole node split.
2019
projects,
Capacity Summit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Yes. We got, my role was just isolate to like the NCP part, or managing the people that would write the NCPs. And so I did that for a while. My company was starting to model the capacity work similar to the central division. And that required new groups to kind of show up. So I saw a role in there which I liked, from that kind of wraps up a lot of my career, some of my field experience, and when I was a capacity manager. So it's what I'm doing now as a pre-vet manager. And what that does is, Cap Eng decides that a job or that a node is an alarm, needs to switch to digital or whatever. These nodes are 20 plus years old, if you think about it. These HFC nodes were built a long time ago. And if you're in the industry, we have a lot of different systems. We have, a builder system, we have a design, we have like what's really going on out in the field. We have a node combining plan of how the ISP is wired up. And, over those 20 years, maybe some things have changed and creeped, and maybe not everything got communicated to those various sources of truth and to be aligned. So that's what my team does. We kind of sniff out any misalignments, call them out well ahead in front of the project. So the hope is downstream the project goes smoother. So bus legs are swapped, that sort of thing. Or there was an augment in the field because maybe there's some better performance by, taking off this splitter and putting it onto another hardline splitter leg, whatever it is out there. We do detective work and sniff that out. And I've been enjoying that so far. We started this team about 2 years ago, and the team's working really good, which is giving me a lot of room to re-engage with SCTE more into my board. So what I mean by that is during COVID, when I was an access engineering manager, things got busy. If you were involved in capacity at all, you had all these plans ready to go. Most of them were in heavily business districts or areas, or even if you just had small shopping centers within a node footprint, it was causing capacity to go up. Well, as we know, COVID hit. A lot of that utilization shifted back to pure residential, right? So you almost had to scrap out some plans that you'd been working on for years and develop new ones. Oh, and by the way, do it fast because they're having an impact right now.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I'm thinking back now.
Yeah. Hopefully. So, those were long work days, and what had to sacrifice, unfortunately, was my volunteerism into SCTE. It kind of dipped, and I don't think I was alone. I think it dipped for a lot of people. But now I'm in this new role, and we're out of COVID, and I'm re-engaging again, and even stronger. So we as a chapter are learning, what does that look like? We're still trying to figure that out. We've gotten some successes, but I think we're still on the path of what does this look like post COVID? How can we, improve upon what we've learned and what we had before?
Very cool. So you'd mentioned pre-vet. Folks like Dave Margetson, Ian McKay. Yeah. Yes, I do. Yeah. I'm running it in the West Division while they're doing Central Division. Correct. Very cool. So do you have any Golden Gate chapter trainings coming up that you want to socialize or deep dive into or talk about? Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So October 11th, tap equalization, with a lot of mid-split enablement and spectrum bandwidth getting out to 1.2 and beyond. We feel that's probably pretty important to re-emphasize, make sure we're properly having our spectrum cared for in the distribution space, coax distribution space. And one of our lessons learned through COVID, so we had to cancel our vendor show through COVID, and first year was rough. Second year, we did something called a training summit, and it took us a little time to get it together. Most time we have our vendor show in the spring, and this ended up falling. I
think 2021 just after Thanksgiving. And we had a lot of participation. And we discovered kind of just after that Thanksgiving period, maybe you're just before the storms coming in, kind of a quiet moment. Maybe you have an MSO on a moratorium or something. Might be a bit of a sweet spot to have some training. So we're bringing that back as well. We're having a technology and training summit is what we're calling it on November 28th. And it's an all-day affair where chapter members and open to others can just come in and go as they please of the different stuff we're going over, such as we're doing preventative network maintenance. We have one titled Taming the CPD, plant integrity and hardening, and preparing for, an all DOCSIS spectrum, maybe at one point, all IP, that sort of thing. So we're really excited for the summit, which will be our November training. And we think we'll have a lot of participation. I believe that's the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, where generally things are a bit quiet. Generally, I hope I didn't jinx it to end up with some storms and such.
You can't predict that, right? No, the training summit, that sounds awesome. I wanted to touch back on, a couple things that you said. You were talking about your involvement with SETE, starting off in '99. But you hit something, and we've heard this before on the podcast, right? Is the SETE, it's all volunteer work. You're going to get into it or get out of it what you put into it. But what I liked hearing is, how could you give back, right? And that's, I think there's a lot of chapter leaders, whether you're an associate, the president, doesn't matter. We lose focus. Eric and I and the chapters here, we joke around about the matrix and who's winning points, but it really is, and I love that you brought it up. It really is an opportunity to give back to the industry. I've also been in telco, cable, whatever you want to call it, or close to the same amount of time. We'll just leave it at that. We don't even know how old we are. But and everybody has their own reason for getting involved, but it really should be to give back. There's a young workforce coming up. There's some of these tenure guys that have been here a long time, but look at the change that's coming, or it comes every year for that matter. I mean, you've lived through it. You got to see some big pieces get moved around in it, and how cool is that for you to say, how can I give back? And then that you guys, as an associate, you're focused on what did the board need, and I would challenge every board member, sit back in those meetings, pay attention, and where is we all have a hole, we have this gap that we need to fill, and if you feel like you can give more, take Don's advice, raise your hand for that gap that you see. So hats off to you for sorting through those things, and then having the motivation to step in there, throw your hand up, and arguably, provide some success for the chapter. So pretty neat stuff there. And this, I'm just going to go a little bit sideways on you, but in your career, who do you think the biggest influence for you has been throughout your career? And it may change year to year. I mean, you've changed titles and companies and things, but let's hear a little bit about somebody that really stands out for you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. There are many, but I think the first that just zips to my mind is during my network maintenance years, my direct supervisor, Neil Alvin, at that time. Just because he stayed close to what the techs were doing. And he had a lot of credibility. In fact, when I went to my job interview, I'll still remember he had had dust all up in his hair and stuff. He had been doing a crawl for some reason as a network supervisor because I guess no one else could fix it or something like that. And so he had to dust himself all off. And I don't know. It just really stuck and I respected that. I respect folks that respect the complication of the field. Field out there is the Wild West, can be. And I really look up to those folks that continue to remember that and honor that. And even if you're not in the field like I'm not, but you do your best to try to support that because you're dealing with customers, hazards, you name it out there, right? So I always felt he did that himself as opposed to maybe one that keeps their fingernails clean, I suppose. I don't know. So I try to make sure I'm the same way that credibility is important to me amongst the people I work for, meaning my direct employees, and so I've always carried that as well. But I've also grabbed from many other people too. But you did limit me to just one, so I'll keep it at that.
Well, yeah, and I'd say we probably all have a handful or more that really have impacted our careers, but. Yeah, it's neat to hear, and it's definitely neat to hear, he earned that respect by, being so close to the field, getting down and dirty with the guys out there, accomplishing it. I always, I don't want to ask my people to do anything I haven't done. And if I'm going to ask you that, I'm going to do my best to be beside you while we're doing it, and it sounds like that made an impact on you. So thanks for sharing that. That was, it's good to hear, and anybody that's listening knows I'm a big network tech fan, network maintenance fan. So that's where my heart is.
Absolutely.
But, I'll turn it over to Eric. What do you have? You got any follow-up questions for Mr. Don?
I think so. Yeah. We'll pivot back to Expo like we were discussing earlier. Don, are you flying in or driving in? What are you doing?
Oh, right. Yeah. No, I am going to Expo. I am flying in. It's funny, I was just in Denver yesterday, but I'm going back next month. There was a meeting out there. Just flying in on Monday. Excited for the chapter leadership breakfast. Sorry you're not going to be there, Rick, but I'm sure I'll see you there. And then, I was some years ago, I was pulled into the cable games. Hey, can you help be, I don't know, forgive me, I call myself a glorified usher or something like that, but help keep everything moving. You have like a team and that sort of thing. I forget, a team captain is what we're called. I enjoy doing that too, meeting with some of the techs around the country. And what I have learned, I've learned last couple of years is meeting up with people from Rogers and Shaw Cable in Canada. Boy, I have heard some of the wildest stories and connected with some of the wildest people from there, and I plan on doing that again. But I think I heard at the top of the podcast, road trip. Does that mean somebody here is driving?
Yes. So we're renting a vehicle, and we're driving from the Dearborn Heights, Michigan office. There's probably about 6 of us. Driving together, big SUV. It's going to take at least 20 hours to get there, maybe 21, 22. We plan to make some stops, like maybe specifically in Nebraska, and find the famous sandwich to eat in Nebraska. Just places, that we'll never go to again in our lives. It's just kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing. So there's going to be many of stops because I doubt everybody's going to come prepared and pack a cooler. Plus, there's not enough room in the SUV anyways, considering all the luggage as well. So, yeah, driving in and staying at a hotel pretty close to the convention center and driving back.
And Eric, did you plan this out?
I was part of the plan. Yeah, but I think ultimately the maestro behind the plan was our president. Sam Akoff, and the rest of us just going along with the plan because it sounds like a lot of fun. So
it does sound like a lot of fun, and I'm not surprised you were in the mix of planning because you put this podcast together. You're part of things that are different, and I like that about you. Sorry, Rick, I think I cut you off there.
No,
Thanks,
you're good because I'm gonna play off of that because the other thing, and I can't limit it to just Eric, but if Eric goes anywhere, and I've seen him at a couple CLCs, Expo, this, that, and the other, but if Eric goes anywhere, he's always got his eye somewhere else. What else is going on that I can't, here I am, in Philly, I think it was last year, right, Eric? You're in Philly and you're like, oh, there's this going on. And so Eric's part of the chapter leadership committee, and we've tasked him that as we announce where it's at, what we're doing, things like that we rely on Eric to find some good entertainment outside of just the business part of it. So the road trip, stopping in Nebraska, like, I'm in for a road trip. We can do one. But 20 plus hours? I don't know. So, but you said it too, Don. I mean, and I know the group that's going with them, and I've talked to several of them here recently, and it's going to be a good, fun trip, and they're going to make some memories that they won't be able to replace, I'm sure. So,
yeah, we'll drive safe and order 2 sandwiches, I guess, for that kind of travel.
I want to know the sandwich place. What's the sandwich place in Nebraska?
Well, we haven't located the place yet, but I believe the sandwich is called the Runza, and it's like a ground beef, cabbage, some sort of sauce and seasonings, and like a pocketed bread, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. They have a very famous cornhusker sandwich, and we want to make sure to get it. Or I shouldn't say me. So
everybody else, they just got to go along,
That's it. And I think ultimately with so many of us going, we're going to be taking turns driving too. And we'll be taking shifts, Some folks are driving and being active with the driver. Then other folks are falling asleep and getting their snooze in. So it'll be that way on the way out there and on the way back.
And did I hear or dream, I don't know, prior episodes, you two are thinking of doing a podcast at Expo?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all Rick's idea.
Eric's always trying to come up with something to push the limits a little bit, but we talked through it a little bit, and why not, right? We can find a place. We wanted to try to do one last year at CLC. I say last year, it was this year's CLC in Oklahoma City, but we just couldn't, we couldn't pull it off. We were busy getting pulled in different directions, things like that. And we were thinking that Expo would be a good time. You're going to have a lot of good vendor friends there that maybe we could pull a couple aside to, let them pitch a product, let them say hi, we can share some of the experiences, plus a lot of our industry friends, whether we work with them at Comcast, wherever, let's take that opportunity to kind of showcase on what I would say the big stage, right? That's the big show for us. So it should be, I don't know that anybody's told national. It might just be a surprise. But
they don't need to know.
All in. Even if we, found a corner one morning, in the hotel lobby, and grabbed a couple folks. I mean, let's just talk about the experience, what they saw, the fun they had, and have a little touch base on it. So, looking forward to it.
I think you should just set up a table, get some copies of some headshots of you two and some Sharpies, and then it's just legit. You're there, podcasting officially.
When you said you're the number one podcast fan, I am Eric, and I said we need some shirts. We need to get some shirts for Expo. He's got us a nice little logo. We can put the logo on it, and a little neat network cool capacity swag. So we'll see if we can pull that off.
That should be fun.
It's a great idea. So,
what else you got for us, Eric?
Yeah, I was gonna bring up, books, movies for Don, favorite books, favorite authors, favorite movies, music. Just kind of venture outside of the format we've been discussing here today so far.
Yeah, sure. So I love movies, but I love books. I mostly read nonfiction. History guy, right? That's what I went to school for. Mostly been getting into some of the classic investing books. I've been kind of dabbling into some investing, but one of the most influential books I've read was probably How to Win Friends and Influence People. It was a real eye opener, and the title's deceiving, but it teaches you how to be more humble and grateful. It's really the main theme of that. Let's see, movies. I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan, but I'd have to rank Oppenheimer not at the top. Didn't love that one. I do watch a lot of documentaries, and I think it was Showtime had a documentary that I just recently finished called Goliath, which was on Wilt Chamberlain's life. And I learned some really interesting things about Wilt Chamberlain that I didn't know before. I knew NBA record-breaking guy and all that other stuff, but I didn't know he was playing for the Harlem Globetrotters and the NBA at the same time. That's how much he loved basketball and just enjoyed messing around, right? Because that's what the Harlem Globetrotters were. And then how much he diverted some of his money to women's sports was kind of interesting, and his more love for volleyball. So I don't know. They do it really good. They AI his voice. They take from other interviews, and so he narrates it, but not really. It's AI that's narrating it, which is kind of an interesting concept. It was a 4-part series that was interesting.
Very cool.
How about you all? Have you seen any good movies lately?
Thinking back to good movies I've seen, you hit on Christopher Nolan. I loved Interstellar. I'm thinking of some of his past movies, too, that were good. He did the Batman trilogy, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a fan of Christopher Nolan. I'm kind of a big director buff, if you will. So if like such and such is making a movie, it may not be so much about the actors or actresses in the movie, but who directed it. How about you, Rick?
Well, I'm gonna start, and we'll start with documentaries. So we do a lot of Netflix at my house, and they have a lot of documentaries. And I'm just warning people, there are some that will change your perspective on food. So there was one on E. coli that we watched, and
was that poison?
Food safe stuff. And, what's that?
I'm trying to think. Was that called Poisoned or something else?
I think it was.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, to feed this machine, it's not going to stop me watching a show on it. However, my wife, she's cringing at some of this stuff. But the reality at my house with a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old, we're watching Puppy Dog Pals. We're watching some. Now, my 8-year-old, she watches some other stuff. We watch a lot of Disney stuff. I'm guessing there's a teenage Kraken is hitting Redbox. I'm guessing that's going to be on the agenda probably for this weekend. So mostly, if there's TV time, I am thumbing through Facebook Marketplace looking for stuff I don't need. Just background. To your point earlier, background noise, right? Is all the TV is. So I don't know. There's so many good movies. I have been hooked on. It's a series, and maybe Showtime did it. Ballers. It has The Rock in it. Can't watch that one around the kids, but just interesting, right? It's pro athletes and money and things like that, and it's entertaining. I'll say that. So that's where my mind's been on TV.
Rick, did you ever watch that series Monster Inside Me? It featured a parasite. Everyone, you're talking about E. coli and that sort of thing, and that's one to give you the heebie-jeebies. I'm sure you can find it on demand somewhere. Monster Inside Me.
I will check that out.
Yeah.
And some of my pleasure in those is that I know my wife. She's big on like some of the murder mystery like documentaries about murders too, and the unfortunate part that then her mind starts to wander and the alarm, the camera goes off in the middle of the night. But yeah, so that's we watch that. So yeah, Monster Inside Me, got it, and hopefully it's not life changing.
Super Mario Brothers was really well done. My son loves that movie, and I think we saw it twice in the theaters. And then it makes me think, too, I don't think this is like the end of video game movies. If anything, they're probably going to expand from here, especially with how much that film made, too, right?
I couldn't get the song out of my head for 3 or 4 days. I annoyed my daughter with it, all the different versions when you go to different levels. So I kind of had it down to whatever mood was going on around the household. I would do the different Mario level music.
Very nice.
My 4-year-old almost has it memorized. It's in the car. It has to play if we're in the car. So I've watched that, and you're right. It was very well done. So.
Well, we're probably getting about that 51, 52 2-minute mark. So I think we can head towards a close, if we will. I look forward to seeing you both at Expo in a couple weeks and catching up, face to face. And I believe before we close out, we were going to go round table with Cable Dad jokes. So, Don, do you want to go first? If not, I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'll go first. I'm not sure if this one was said before, but I like it. How do fiber optic cables stay in shape? They always keep a tight core.
That's a good one.
So, I asked the cable guy, hey, do you think you can hide those cables? He says, yes, I think I conduit.
Nice.
That's pretty good.
Rick, you got one?
Oh, man. Why do sharks eat underwater internet cables? They were advised to have more fiber in their diet. There it is. That's the best I got, guys.
Nice.
I'll do better next time.
That works.
So, well, awesome. It's always good to end in a good laugh. Don, you brought one I've never heard before and a good one to the jokes. I appreciate that. I'd like to say, Don, thanks for joining today. Learned a lot about you and some stuff about the chapter you work with there. It's been a pleasure to get to know you a little bit better. So definitely thanks for coming on. Eric said it. Look forward to Expo. Hopefully we can catch up there. Any last thoughts from you, Eric, and then we'll catch a last thought from Don.
I believe I'm good. We can turn it right over to Don. Yeah.
Last thoughts, close us out.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun to future episodes, so keep it going, all right? And I'll see you at Cable Tech Expo.
Sounds good. We'll get some more content out there to keep you entertained during your day.
That's awesome. We'll see you guys then.
See you guys.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.